in the education specialists, and also to increase the amount of teachers that we have in the area of modest severe disabilities, which is kind of the area of disability passion that I have. Most of my research has been done with students that are deaf-blind and usually have multiple disabilities as well, but I'm looking at it through the lens of motor development and trying to allow them to have motor independence as well. So super excited. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that all of you are here as well. And I can't wait to learn more about you and hopefully eventually see you at Cal Poly.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Van Boxtel, did you already share? Sorry, I think my computer was muted. Okay, so our plan for this evening, and like I said, we'll take turns. We're going to tell you a little bit about the background of the grant. We're going to go through an overview of our website, talk about some of the additional things that our scholars will get if they get awarded a scholarship, and then talk about who the ideal candidate is. We'll touch a little bit on overviews of our particular programs, either the education specialist or the adapted physical education. And then at the end, we'll have time for questions. Alrighty. Okay, so basically, SEEDS is a proposal, a federal grant that was awarded to Cal Poly Pomona by the Federal Department of Education, the Office of Special Education Programs. And it's a 5-year grant, and it was $1.1 million that was awarded to create a interdisciplinary program between the adapted physical education program and the moderate to severe special education program. So the parameters of the grant are that students have to be working on one of those 2 credentials. And we're revisioning some of our courses so that it's a more collaborative model between the 2 programs. And the good news is most of the money that we were awarded is going towards student scholarships. So I think SEEDS by itself is a scholarship program. You still need to apply to the credential program and be accepted prior to applying for a scholarship. Okay. So the 3 elements of Project SEEDS for the next 5 years, the components that are the most important to you as potential scholars are building upon this idea of collaboration. We know that special education teachers and service providers really need to be able to collaborate well with one another. So that's going to be a big focus of our course redesign that the federal government has asked us to do. We also know that special education and service providers are more successful and stay in the profession longer if they have mentoring. So part of the Project SEEDS scholarship is if you are awarded funding, we will have mentoring throughout the program for you, and then also your first 2 years in the classroom will have check-in meetings, and it's a non-evaluative mentoring, meaning it's just more of talking and maybe working with some challenges that you're having in your classroom, celebrating successes, things like that. There's no grade involved, or your principal doesn't hear anything you tell us. So it's a good support system. And then the third piece that we'll talk a little bit about later on also is there is a service obligation component to the scholarship that the federal government has laid out. So once you have accepted the funds, because they are funds coming from the federal government, you then owe a service obligation to the Office of Special Education Programs. So what that means is that for every year of funding you accept from them for the scholarship, you owe them 2 years of service, either as a teacher in a mod severe setting or as an adapted physical education teacher. Okay, so if it takes you 3 years to get your credential and your master's, you would owe them 6 years of teaching in return with one of those 2 credentials. Okay, if for some reason you're not able to fulfill that obligation, the money that you took converts to a no interest loan. Okay, so we have had people ask if they can do like a dual credential and get like their mild, moderate, and their moderate to severe, which is fine. And the federal government said that we can approve that. However, your first block of teaching for that service obligation has to be in the mod severe setting. And so you can clear that obligation to them. okay? All right, so looking at the timeline for our scholarship program, so we have it laid out so that it kind of runs parallel with applying to the actual credential program. And I realized as I was reviewing this slide earlier today that there should be a box for applying to the university. So if you're not currently a Cal Poly student, the very first thing you would do is apply to Cal Poly Pomona through CSU Apply. And I'm gonna, at the end of the presentation, I'll share this slide deck with everybody, and you'll have all the links down here in the notes. So the first thing you need to do is apply to Cal Poly as a post-baccalaureate student, which post-baccalaureate means credential program, basically. And you can't do that until August 1st. Right now it's closed from accepting new applications, but the window for spring 2019 opens August 1st, okay? So that's just to apply to the university. And then there are some prerequisite requirements that you need to meet. And I will click on, let's see if I can click on that one. Oops. Okay. So the prerequisite requirements to get into the credential program are you have to have a GPA of at least 2.75 in your last 60 semester units. You have to have been accepted by the university, which is that first step. There's a separate credential application that you can find online that has to be filled out. There is an orientation that you have to attend to apply to the Ed Specialist program. And our next one is actually, is it July 18th, I believe? Dr. Van Boxtel will know. And she can correct me if I'm wrong. And then also you need to have 45 hours of early field experience, meaning working with students. And that can be volunteer. That can be, if you're currently a paraprofessional, that would certainly count as your 45 hours. If you've been a substitute teacher, that will work. And then you also have to have, and the biggest ones that, that are gonna take the most time are you have to have the basic skills requirement met, which is the CBEST test, and you can apply to take that through the state website. And then you have to provide subject matter competency. This is required prior to program admission. So basically you have to either have passed the CSET, and you have to have like the multiple subject CSET, and people usually ask questions about the CSET, so I won't go into that too much. But the other thing you can have is if you were a liberal studies major at a university that had a waiver program, that would also suffice as subject matter competency. Or if your undergraduate major, like let's say you're going to go into adapted PE and your undergraduate major was kinesiology, that would be subject matter competency, okay? All right. So you would apply to the Cal Poly Credential Program either as a Mod Severe Education Specialist or as an APE student, and that due date is September 15th. So you're all in the perfect window before the last crunch. I believe you have another month to get the CSET taken so that you can get your scores back in time for the September 15th deadline, okay, for spring. And then once you've applied to the credential program, you can apply for the SEEDS scholarship. And that application is due October 1st. And that's a separate program, a separate application that's in the Bronco Scholarship application portal. So it's just like any other scholarship you would apply for, okay? And then they check the applications, they weed out the people that aren't eligible for us, and then the 3 faculty members, Dr. Foster, Dr. Van Boxtel, and I, we review the applications. We then hold interview with the top ranked candidates that have meet all the qualifications. For example, we're meeting with those students who have applied for fall. We're meeting with them the first week in July. If you're applying for next spring, we would probably meet with you at the end of October. And then basically we have a rubric that we use, and then the finalists are ranked. And we have a total of 16 scholarships for the year. So we're basically dividing that 50, 8 and 8. So we'll have half and half. So half will get a scholarship in fall, and then half, like all of you, if you're interested in applying for spring, would have an opportunity for the second 8 that will be given in spring. Okay? And then you'll get a letter of acceptance prior to tuition being due for that semester, sorry. And then basically, once you are awarded a scholarship, you do not need to apply again. You have that scholarship until you are finished with your credential and your master's. Okay, so it's once you're awarded the scholarship, you're done. Okay, you have it permanently. All right. Okay, Dr. Van Boxtel is going to share. Oops, are you there?
She's muted, Heather, if you can unmute her.
Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting a message. So hi everyone, my name is Dr. Van Boxtel, and I am one of the project faculty, as Dr. Wizakowski shared. And we have developed a website to give you an overview of everything that's been shared with you so far. If Dr. Wizakowski, if you can maybe get out or touch on that link so it kind of pops up there. So we have developed this website with all of the questions in mind that we have been getting about the scholarship. Much of the information that we've shared already you can find here on the website. So if there's any questions that you have as we are going through the session, you can always refer back to this website. We have the supported programs listed on the left side here. I'm looking at the menu of options. The supported programs, so it's our Mod Severe credential or Adapted Physical Education credential. We have the application information, which Dr. Wizakowski has covered. The service obligation information, which has also been covered, but is the requirement that you have for this grant. It's basically your service commitment for accepting the federal dollars. And then probably the most important link on here is our FAQ. We have, you can see here, we have 14 questions that we have been thinking through, and we've actually been adding to this as we have been getting more questions and from applicants. So I'm not going to go through all the questions here, but we have been intentional about what we've included on this page to help clarify some of the questions that pertain to eligibility and timelines for the program. The next link just has the project faculty information, and then the request more information link is something that you can also assist us with in getting the word out as after this webinar is over. That would be something that would be helpful to us as well. If we go back to the slides, Dr. Wizakowski. Probably one of the most exciting benefits of this grant are some of the perks that come along with it. And one of the great perks is having technology. So all of the scholars that are funded will have an iPad. And the iPad is something that has been chosen specifically because of accessibility features for students with disabilities. So you'll be able to use this as a student, but that's something that will be a tool that you'll most likely have in the classroom when you work with your own students. So we we'll be integrating technology through the courses of this program. And so you'll be learning about technology and you'll have the technology to use and practice while you're in the program. Another benefit of this program is that all of your books, or excuse me, you'll have a credit for your books, a $500 credit towards your textbooks for the program. And then that other graphic that says TASH is a professional organization. So we will take you to a professional conference. And because of one of the key themes of this grant is collaboration, we also want to be able to collaborate with you as students. And so attending this professional conference, our hope is to have our scholars actually present or co-present with us as faculty. So not only will you have the opportunity to learn and develop your own skills as a professional through the conference, but you'll also grow and develop as maybe a future presenter. So. In the ideal candidate, I think we're all going to discuss this. Dr. Wizakowski, did you want to start or?
There we go. I was muted.
Okay.
No, do you want to start, or Dr. Foster, since she hasn't jumped in yet, or?
Sure. Dr. Foster, do you want to jump in?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, awesome. So all three of us are clearly very passionate about individuals with disabilities, and for the ideal candidate, we are hoping that that is your passion as well, that you already know that you for sure want to work with children with disabilities, and more so those children with disabilities that have more significant disabilities as well. And we all know that it takes a unique person with the patience and the ability to adapt and be flexible to be able to meet that student where they need to be met based off of needs. We want to see passion in each of our students because we believe that that will drive them to not only learn the context of the classes that they're taking, but also be able to build that bridge of taking course knowledge into the field. If you don't know about Cal Poly Pomona, we are all about learn by doing. And for all three of us, I think the reason why we're working at Cal Poly is because we truly believe in that. And so lots of what this program is going to be is also hands-on learning and working with those children and being in the school districts and getting experience. We have a on-campus motor development clinic that I'm director of that I would like all of our SEED scholarship students to be able to participate in and just to gain that experience. So I really just want to be able to see a student bleeding the passion of individuals with disabilities and really wanting to make a change in their life and in their education, and to be the person that tells that student that yes, they can, and not that no, they can't. I think that's super important because in education, many times people preconceive a person with a disability and automatically start thinking of the can'ts. And I want students that are thinking of the cans and figuring out a way to make that happen, because that's what we need to do in the field, whether it's motor skills, whether it's math, whether it's writing. How can we get this student based off of their needs to be the best they can be and do what they want to do? So that's what I'm looking for. I bleed the passion of individuals with disabilities. I have family members with disabilities, and I know that when other people believe in them, they continue to exceed my expectations. So I hope that's what I see in the candidates.
Great, perfect. And just to add to that, I think also in terms of the ed specialist side, that passion for us translates a lot of times into advocacy, social justice, looking at what we should be doing with our students with disabilities, looking at how we can be agents of change in the school districts, because, you know, as most of us know that work with students with disabilities, we've got a long way to go towards getting them integrated into general education classrooms. And also being willing to teach our students to be advocates for themselves. I think that that's, you know, a real passion I know of Dr. Van Boxtel and myself.
Heather, Joanne is muted again.
Oh, how did that happen? Let's see. Where are we going now?
Can you
Yeah,
you
we
hear
heard you. We heard you.
I apologize, everyone. I keep getting messages that I'm muted and I have to unmute myself, and something's not working here. But I just also wanted to add that a value for inclusion and high expectations for students with disabilities. So even though this credential focuses on what is now going to be called extensive support needs, so you would be working with students who may need supports for communication, for behavior. And a lot of times these are students that unfortunately teachers have low expectations for, because sometimes they may not communicate verbally, or the behaviors that they have can be challenging. So you're entering the field at a really exciting time. And the technology piece, I think, is a tool that has really made a huge difference and kind of increased the growth of a lot of students very rapidly, who in years past, when we didn't have some of these tools, may not have made the academic progress that they are now able to make because of what technology can do. So I would say that that's another piece to keep in mind, that we're looking for candidates who really have that passion for teaching and learning as well. Like, if you want your students to exceed and excel and believe that, as Dr. Foster said, believe that they can, whatever you're presenting them with in your instruction, that it's your responsibility as the teacher to figure out how to make the learning accessible for them. And I think if you have that kind of commitment for them, you're going to be in a field that is going to be extremely rewarding for you. So.
Fantastic. Uh-oh, what happened? There we go. Okay, so next, what we have is just an overview of the Ed Specialist program and the Adapted Physical Education program. Dr. Van Boxtel is actually going to be our program coordinator starting, August 1st, which is very exciting. So I'll let her talk about the Ed Specialist program.
So as Dr. Wizakowski shared, our deadline for fall is coming up. So September 15th is what you need to do or the date that you need to keep in mind for getting your application materials in. I think she's covered most of the requirements that apply for our program earlier on. I am going to be conducting an information session about our program and about requirement, tell you a little bit more about the coursework, what you can expect from our program. And that is a session, as she shared, that's coming up on July 18th at 5 to 6 p.m. And I'm going to do it just like this through Zoom, so that we can, it's the first attempt that I'm making to reach more candidates who may not be able to get onto campus as easily. So that is something, that date you can mark down, but to sign up for that, that's on our website. That's also linked in this slide deck that Dr. Wizakowski has. Okay. So I believe she mentioned early on for the program, we're really wanting candidates to attend full time. We know that might not be ideal for some of our candidates, but if you attend full-time, our program is 3 semesters in length, and that includes your clinical practice, we call it, but is basically your student teaching, and that's 1 semester of student teaching. So you'd get your coursework, and then you'd go into the field and you'd be mentored by a cooperating teacher. If you attend, sorry. If you attend full-time or part-time, rather, our program for the mod severe credential is, I apologize, everyone. This is my dog. There we go. Our program is 48. So sorry. Hold on. Okay, shut the door. Our program is 48 units for your Mod Severe credential. So if you attend part-time, it could take up to 7 semesters to complete the program, and that would, you know, roughly be about 2 courses per semester. Full-time would be 4 or 5 courses per semester. And then Dr. Foster, did you want to talk about the length of the APE program?
Sure. All right, so the adaptive physical education program is slightly different because adaptive physical education is just an added authorization, which means you have to have a credential to add on adaptive physical education. So primarily, students receive a single subject physical education credential first, and then they, at the same time, simultaneously, take courses in adaptive physical education. So when they receive their single subject physical education credential, they automatically then receive the APE added authorization, which allows them to be highly qualified to teach adapted physical education. Now, very similar to the education specialists is that you would have to pass the CSET for physical education unless you graduated from a kinesiology program at a university that the CSET is waived. Then you would have to just provide evidence of that waiver. You would also have to pass the CBEST as well. And many of the other credential requirements are the same as far as the 45 hours of early field experience and the grade point average. But when you complete the packet from the the College of Education, it would be the single subject one for physical education. And for our program to receive your PE credential and the APE added authorization, because you are taking an additional 18 units, a minor in adaptive physical education, it is most likely 4 semesters to be able to complete your credential and PE, and then also your APE added authorization. And that includes 1 semester in clinical practice or student teaching. In that semester, you would do half of your time teaching general physical education, and then the other half you would be teaching adaptive physical education at that same district. Now, for the master's, if you want to receive your master's in science, which would be an MS in the kinesiology department, you would have to take your prior to and transferring as a master's student compared to a post-bac student. So that is one difference compared to a master's of, you guys are education or arts?
We're arts.
Arts. And MA is, we do require a GRE score, a test to be completed prior to being able to transfer you as a master's student from a post-bac student. But besides that, most of the program information is very similar, and we will have that collaboration between both the ed specialists and the APE students as well, because once you get in the field, you will know how important that collaboration is. So you'll have experience with that throughout the courses under this SEED scholarship.
Great. And also to piggyback on that, I'm the advisor of the master's program in special education, or it's in education, Masters of Arts. So the way we have it, it's a very seamless transition from credential to master's. It's basically one form that we fill out, and as long as you meet the minimum GPA, you're in good standing in the credential program, you automatically can transfer over to the master's program. You would not need to take the GRE as you do with the Master's of Science. Most people can do the master's program. You can go full or part-time. If you do it full-time, you can actually do it in 2 semesters based on some courses that we can double count. We can count them for credential and master's. If you choose to go part-time, of course, it would take you a bit longer, probably 4 semesters. And then in terms of the CSET, for the Ed Specialist program, it's odd since we're pairing with adapted PE, but you can take any CSET for the Ed Specialist program with the exception of physical education. So any other CSET will count towards subject matter competency for the Ed Specialist, but not physical education. That's something new in the last few years. The state has decided to change. So if you want to teach elementary school, we encourage you to take the multiple subjects CSET. And then if you want to teach middle or high school, generally we encourage you to take a single subject CSET. Depending on what you want to teach. If you're interested in teaching math or science or social studies, whichever of those, okay? So is there anything else that we need to add?
I did have one thing to add. If you are a student and have completed an undergrad and that undergrad was not in kinesiology and now you realize, oh my goodness, adaptive physical education is the best field ever, and you want to then obtain the AP Ed authorization and the single subject physical education credential, if you do not have any kinesiology or physical education courses as an undergrad, you would, prior to being able to apply for the single subject physical education credential, you would have to take 12 units as a prerequisite to show the subject matter competency, in addition to still passing that CSET, just because we require that you have that knowledge of physical education prior to going into the credential and the APE Ed authorization.
Okay. All right. So moving on to our next, we're right on time. So it's your turn. I will stop sharing my screen. If you have questions that you would like to ask us, you can put them in the chat box. We can talk about them. If there's anything else.
I did have one thing, and I believe Dr. Van Boxtel talked about September 15 being the deadline. That's for spring deadline, not fall. Fall deadline has already passed. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to everybody. So the fall deadline, that's already passed. But if you want to apply for spring, the deadline is September 15th. And we are all in transition to this new semesters. So if things look a little bit chaotic with the deadlines, we just came from a quarter system, so that's why everything's a little bit shifted and no one knows everything exactly, because now we're going to semesters now.
Yeah, that has been a challenge. Okay, so the deadline for, that's a good question. Okay, so the first question Robert asked was more of, we know it's a crunch. It is a new requirement that the CSET is passed. But you know, it's just, if you can't get it done before the September 15th deadline, then you can put off applying until fall of 2019. That would be your other option. The deadline for fall 2019 for the credential program is April 1st. Is it April 1st or April 15th? Are they doing both 15? Do you know, Dr. Van Boxtel?
For spring of the following year?
April 1st.
Is it April 1st? Okay. So so to apply to the credential program, the deadline for fall is April 1st, and then our deadline for Project Seeds for the scholarship will be June 1st. And yes, if you were a special ed teacher's assistant, I'm not sure about that one. What do you say, Dr. Van Boxtel? If they were a TA, I would assume it would.
Yeah, the point of the field experience is that we're verifying that you've had experience working with students out in the field. So I think working as a teacher's assistant in a classroom would still be sufficient.
Yeah. And the scholarships, we have funding through June of 2023. The federal government has said we can award scholarships all the way till June of 2020. So the scholarship will be available every semester. And then there's a good question about courses. Most of our courses are in the evening in the Ed Specialist program. All of our courses are in the evenings to accommodate working people. The earliest start is 4 p.m. and I believe the latest start now is 7 with semesters. And then also another perk of semester conversion for us in the Ed Specialist program is all of our credential courses and our master's courses are now hybrids. So you won't be coming to campus every week for those courses. And so it would actually be possible to take 2 courses at the same time if they alternate in odd and even weeks. Okay. Let's see, when will we hear about the first rounds of applicants? We're currently reviewing the applications right now and we will be scheduling interviews with the finalists for the week of July 9th. All right, any more questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the application deadline is February 15th.
Oh, it's February 15th?
Yeah, it's not April. So I don't know if Dr. Foster has a different deadline for AP, but it's February.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's the one we go with too. So
Okay. Yeah.
That's super early. Okay.
Yes,
so
it is.
15th. Okay, so if the CSET is completed by the end of this year, February 15th would be your application date that you could work with, and that would mean fall of 2019 admission.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is about, okay, so 6 years ago you have experience. I would think you have to have it signed for, so you'd have to be able to have contact with somebody that was supervising you in that role. If you can do that, I would think that you could use that experience. How many applicants were there for fall? We had 17 applicants. And we have approximately 8 scholarships that we're going to be giving out. Does the scholarship cover the credential and the master's program? Yes. And yes, you would have to have the CBEST and the CSET completed in order to apply to the credential program. You have to be admitted to the credential program in order to be considered for a SEEDS scholarship.
and just to add to that, that is out of our 3 hands. That goes through admissions. So even if we really like you and you haven't passed either of those 2, there's really nothing we can do. That's through admission that you have to have those 2 checked off that you passed them. So we would love to help, but we really don't have any control on that.
There you go. And then types of volunteer experience, anything where you're working in a setting with groups of children. You know, it could be volunteering at church, it could be coaching, a team, anything where someone observed you working with children that would sign off and said, say that you did, a nice job working with children, that would be acceptable for experience.
And I want to add to that, if you haven't obtained any and you're looking for the SEED scholarship, it would benefit you to be able to have those volunteer experiences be with students with disabilities. or athletes with disabilities, because that would make you more marketable of having prior experience with disabilities. So if it's something that you're looking to obtain, I would recommend, instead of just doing, you know, kids at a church or at a Y, to really look at different venues, Ability First, Special Olympics, that will allow you to work with individuals with disabilities, because that really will help you be able to link course content to those volunteer experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So someone asked, does the CSET have to be completed, meaning attempted, or completed as in passed? That is a little murky point, because in the past we have let people just attempt it, but now the chancellor's office says you have to have it completed and passed before you can enter the credential program. So it does have to be actually passed before your application can be accepted into the credential program. Okay. Okay, are we able to receive another grant in addition to this one? Yes, you can. However, I believe if you try to accept another federal grant, the federal government, we have to get permission from our project officer to have you on 2 federal grants, because of the service obligation agreements and because of some other data collection that they do on their end. We would have to get permission if it was a federal grant. If it's just a Cal Poly grant or something like that, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay. All right. Oh, to get the deadline straight, good luck. I don't think we have them straight. With semester complete.
Yeah. I added some on the chat there for the.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay, July 18th is the orientation info session. Yes. August 1st, you can start applying to the university. Yes. That's for spring. September 15th is the credential program due date for spring as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fall is done. Fall is locked down. There's nothing we can do about any of you starting in fall, unfortunately. That deadline has passed.
So with that, I think one big thing to stress is that you are doing 2 applications. One, you're applying to Cal Poly Pomona through the CSU Apply.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to fill out, which is currently still paper, a actual application for the credential program at Cal Poly Pomona. So that's why when you look at the deadlines, there's 2 deadlines. One is to apply to the university as a post-bac. Then you have to continue and complete the credential application to get into, not only as a student to Cal Poly, but now into the credential program. After you do those 2, then you apply for the SEEDS scholarship. Okay, so there's really 3, sign language 3, okay, different applications you're doing. And that's the order, pretty much, is best to do them in.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Okay, someone asked about interns. Yes, you are welcome to be an intern and apply for the scholarship. And as soon as you pass the CSET, you can contact our intern coordinator and apply to the intern program, which would be a 4th application. Sorry. But yes, you can be an intern. You can apply for the scholarship. The only thing I want to make clear is that if you do accept an internship and take a SEEDS scholarship while you are officially an intern, that does not count towards your service obligation, because that time teaching is considered part of your university program because you're not a fully credentialed teacher. So your service obligation would not begin until the state issues you a credential. Okay. Wow. Okay. Volunteer experience in Spain. I don't see why not. I mean, kids are kids, no matter what language they're speaking. So as long as you can have someone sign off on it, volunteer experience in another country would be great. Okay. Requirements for applying through the scholarship. That would be something you can look at our website. A lot of it is very parallel. You need letters of recommendation. There's a personal statement that's involved. Transcripts. It's basically what you would need to apply to any scholarship. Also, we would like to see a resume. So you need to upload a resume. Okay. Is there an office at Cal Poly? No. Yes, we do all have offices. I am actually holding office hours this summer for SEEDS related matters. So if you were interested in coming and speaking with me, we can set something up. You would just need to email me from my from the contact page on our website. Okay. And then Joe has a good question, and this comes up a lot, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the federal government said we can only award the scholarship to people that are working on their very first credential. So if you already have another credential, another area, you wouldn't qualify for the scholarship. Okay. Okay, I've passed the CBEST and enrolled for the CSET. Should I just take a single subject test? That would completely be up to you, what test you feel like you would be successful on. And the other thing that I think we missed during the presentation was back on the page about our programs. We have links to a lot of different CSET prep materials. So if you're unsure about how to get ready for the CSET, there are lots of helpful links there. And like I said, I'm gonna share the link to the slide deck when we're done, so you'll have access to those. Okay. Are there any other burning questions that we can answer for anybody? February 15th. Yes, Elma, you are right. I think we have this now. February 15th is the date to apply to the credential program. And then June 1st would be when the SEEDS scholarship applications are due for fall.
Also, as we move past fall, our website will be up to date with the next semester's deadline. So just look at the website, save that website. Every time we transition into the new one, we'll post clear deadlines on those 3 kind of application steps of when they're due by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, if I plan on teaching middle high school, yes, you would want to take a single subject CSET in the subject that you want to teach in. Let's see, is there a higher demand for elementary or secondary? In terms of Mod Severe, there's demand everywhere. So it just depends on what age group you prefer working with. And then Alma asked, what if I'm interested in the APE? I'm not sure what that means.
If that's for the deadlines are all the same for adaptive physical education. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Same deadlines.
All right. So how many scholarships will we be awarded? It's a little fluid, only because we have a pot of money that we can give out. And it just depends on if students end up going full-time, part-time. There are a lot of different factors. So according to our calculations, we have 27 to award over the next 4 years. However that works out in terms of applying. Because if we take 13 people this year who decide to go part-time next year, which we're hoping doesn't happen, but that would affect how much money we have to give next year for students. So it's a lot of budgetary management on our end. But we do have funding for 27 students. Okay. We're not giving preference to if you want to go full-time, part-time. We're encouraging students to go full-time only because we don't want you saddled with a really big service obligation on the other end that you feel like is, too much or insurmountable. So we are encouraging students to go full-time. And yes, all our courses are evening courses. And the 27 students, that's 27 students over the life of the grant. So over the next 4 years that we get money for students, we can allow 27 scholarships to be awarded. Okay, if I have my undergrad bachelor's degree, am I still able to apply? I'm not quite sure what Danielle's question is. If I have my undergrad bachelor's degree, am I still able to apply for the scholarship? So you'd have to have a bachelor's degree before you can apply to the credential program. I'm not sure if that answers the question or not. We are almost out of time. We have 6 more minutes. We can certainly keep answering questions for the next few, but I did want to ask everybody if you wouldn't mind typing your name and your email address in the chat box, just because Carla would like to keep in touch with you to see if you have any more questions. We also have a survey that we would appreciate if you could fill out. And let me share my screen with you again. So the email address or the link to get to the survey is http://bit.ly/survey-seeds. There's also a link in the slide deck that I will share with everybody. But we really appreciate it if you could fill that out for us, and that'll just help us as we plan future events like this. You know, we did it last time and made some tweaks this time to make it a better presentation for you guys based on feedback from the last batch of students. So we would appreciate that if you could do that. All right, are there any other questions popping up in the chat that I'm not seeing?
I have one from about adaptive PE teachers. Sorry, it's leaving me because everyone's putting their email in. Do they generally hire to work at one school, or do they work at multiple sites? Most adapted physical educators at school districts are what's considered itinerant, in that they do travel to multiple different schools. And there's also opportunities to work for an agency in which you then actually provide APE services to more than one district as well. So there are, I would say, more opportunities for APE teachers to work at different sites, different schools within a district. However, there are some schools, School for the Blind, School for the Deaf, that adaptive physical ed teacher would just be at that school. I do want to touch base on the fact that people talked about the 65 scholarships.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest thing is that, which is unique to California, because I'm not from California, is that with every federal grant for scholarships, the minimum is 65% of the scholarship must go to students. Mind you, lots of these articles that have gotten published have not made contact to us about specific numbers. Nowhere in our grant do we have specific numbers on how many. So when they hear 1.1 million, many of them are looking at that 65% and publishing that. But since our grant is requiring 2 years, give or take, for credential plus 1 year as a master's, compared to other states that when they graduate as an undergrad already have qualified, they only need 1 year of master's. We're providing 3 years of schooling compared to every other state under this grant that provides 1 year of schooling. Hence why our number's half of what is typical for this grant at other states. So that's the big difference of why you might have seen or heard 65, 63. We literally just looked at every single specific chance based upon what we have. And that 27 can change as well. Nowhere in the grant do you put an actual number. It all depends on the students, part-time, full-time, how many drop out, how many complete the actual scholarship and graduate, and when they graduate. So we can't control news and media and newspapers. So we apologize. If anything, hopefully that we then get the best students we can get, and just market yourself if you really want this scholarship.
There was one question too. I did want to just make a plug here for the field, a question about a higher demand for elementary or secondary special education. And the reason this funding is available from the federal government is because there is such a shortage for special education, but the critical shortage area within our field is are these two areas, mod severe, adapted physical education. So really you have, as a credentialed student or a credentialed teacher for this field, you have tons of opportunity. It really doesn't matter if you specialize in one area or the other. There's openings across all the grade levels for this credential.
And in addition to that, last year was the first year California needed more APE teachers than they could fill positions. So that's also why we received the grant, because both of our areas are in need within the state of California of teachers that can fill those empty positions. San Fran alone had 55 APE positions and they filled 3. So it is very, very demanding all across California and even across the nation, because you can do your service obligation outside of California as well. So there is a need for both of these fields.
For sure, yeah. Okay, I think that brings us exactly to 7 o'clock, and I know we want to respect your time. Thank you so very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And again, please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have further questions. Like I said, let me go ahead and put a link real quick in the chat. If you did want to meet with me, I know a student has already asked about meeting to review some information. My office hours, I just added a link in the chat box there. I'm doing virtual office hours this summer so that we don't have to go to campus, but we'll meet by Zoom just like this, but it'll just be 2 of us if you have any specific questions about the SEEDS scholarship. Okay. And someone just asked about recording. Yes, we are recording it, and hopefully it was decent enough for us to post on the web and have out there for everyone else to see. But yes, we do plan on posting this on the SEEDS website. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of the week and a good weekend, everybody. All right. Thank you. Bye.